Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Phoebe and I am really excited to share with you today everything that I've been stitching on in the last couple weeks. It just makes me really happy to talk about cross stitch, as I'm sure a lot of you understand. So I'm actually going to be talking about a little needlepoint today as well. I do have some whip progress on the needlepoint that I started when I was in Wisconsin. So today I'm going to share with you, do I have any new starts? I don't think I started anything new. So we're just gonna get right into my whips, my works in progress. And I'm gonna start with my 2 strands a day project. And then we will go from there and we will look at all of the whips that I've been enjoying. And then we'll talk about plans, and then we'll talk a little bit about books at the end of the video. If you're not interested in that, then you don't need to stick around for that. So the last couple weeks I have had a lovely time. We took an impromptu trip to my folks' house. So I grew up in the Sierra Nevadas in a little town called Grass Valley, and it's like as you're coming down Highway 20 out of like up by Truckee, up by Tahoe, as you're coming down out of the mountains, and it comes from like, you're coming out of super heavily pined coverage, and then it opens up a little bit and there's this little mine, there's a couple little mining towns down there in Nevada City. That's where I'm from. So we drove back through there. It's like maybe 10 hours to get from where I live in Utah out to my folks' house. My mom's going in for some thyroid surgery pretty soon. We wanted to make another trip out there before school starts. So it was a really fast trip, just 4 days out and back, and we just got to spend time with my parents, listen to stories from them. My mom had my daughter try on all of her, I'm gonna pop a picture up, all of her clothes. So my grandma was a great seamstress and would make all of my mom's clothes. And so my mom had saved, you know, 10 to 20 of her favorite pieces. And my daughter Honor was able to try on a bunch of them, including her wedding dress, including, she even let her bring home the dress that she took her senior portraits in, like this really cute 2-piece ensemble that she had after, my grandma had made her after my sister was born. And so it was just so fun to watch her try all these things on. And we had a really, really great time. So, and then my parents are planning, I think, to move within the next couple of years to Texas. So I was talking to Tim about how, you know, let's go see some of the things that are really going to spark a lot of memories for me, because the next time we go visit my parents, well, maybe not the next time, but, you know, coming up, if we go to visit them, it's going to be to Texas. So it won't be to my hometown, and I won't get to see all these fun things. So anyway, that is a big part of the last 2 weeks. And I actually didn't get as much stitching done on the trip as I thought I might. I barely stitched at my mom's house at all, like pretty much not at all, because I didn't really want her to get up and do anything. So I was trying to make sure that she wasn't feeling stressed by our visit at all. And then on the drive, Tim drove the whole way there and I drove part of the way back. But I only stitched on the drive like a little bit because I was trying to keep him busy. We took a lot of these hilarious like quizzes. They were these Korean quizzes, and the translation coming over, just, it was so fun. We took a lot of quizzes, and then Tim's like, okay, enough of that. Wait a second, I'm having so much fun. Anyway, so we just took our daughters and our sons stayed with their dad. And so it was like a girls' trip, except for Tim. So anyway, speaking of some great girl time, I have a Zoom stitch and chat with Kim from Content and Needle Kim today. Shortly after I'm done filming this video, we're going to chat and stitch. We're going to stitch on Emmeline Harris, which I'm very excited about. That looks like this. So I guess that's part of my plans too. Okay, so let's get into whips. So we're going to start with my 2 strands a day project. And you know that recently I finished my previous 2 strands a day, which was Halloween This Way from Primitive Hair. And then my next oldest whip is Garden Prelude from Mirabilia. So here is where I'm at. So mostly what I worked on, I didn't work on this garden part at all. So let's just move that. I got all of the violin in pretty much. I don't think any of that was in there before, hardly at all. And then I spent a lot of time filling in any missing space here in her hair and in these ribbons. So pretty much that whole page that has all these the hair and ribbons is done. And then I worked on her skin a lot. So I'm doing her skin over one. And when I get back into this, so basically I'm going to be stitching on this till it's done. So hopefully I won't have this problem again, but some of the over one is not as nice because like when I would get back into it, I didn't really remember. I get kind of into a rhythm when I'm stitching over one on 32 count in order to make my crosses lay flat. And a lot of the early part I did when I was first doing it, it's not the best. So, because I really have to kind of finagle it to make it so the threads don't slip under the other threads. So, yeah, I don't think I stitched anything in the aqua at all this time. So it was mostly purples and blacks, browns. I brought this over a little bit more, I think. So that is my Mirabilia. This is Garden Prelude. I'm stitching it on the called for white felt fabric. And so this is officially my oldest whip right now. And I started it in 2022, right after, or like right before I started my Flosstube channel, something like that. So I love her. So I'm stitching that one with all of the called for DMC and specialty flosses, and I'm doing it over 2 on 32 count. So next I pulled out my needlepoint, and this project when it's finished will look like this. That will also tell you what the name of the project is. I didn't bring it in here with me. So this is the one that I got like all kitted up for me at Witchy Stitcher, and she put all of the brads in here and like got it set on the frame. She sells all the stuff there, and then this canvas, and then all of these flosses. I just got a couple that she had ordered for me. So I am loving this so much. So again, this designer is like Jeanette Douglas, where she will tell you like step by step, or like a Chatelaine, step by step what she thinks you should do in what order. So she had me come in and make the whole outline border, all the dark green, then putting in the light green, so do all the green, like this. And then actually I think very first I started with this. And then she's like, okay, now we're gonna start filling in one section at a time. So this, all of this inside of that green right there, my nails still have a really, Joy painted my nails a couple weeks ago and I still haven't changed it. So everything that's inside of there, then you kind of just like fill it all in. And so I'm using all the called for flosses. There's some ribbons, like the thing that's in the very middle, and then there's also going to be green ribbon going throughout. Oh yeah, and I put in some of the ribbons here. And then you move out, and so then you work on the next. So in here, that's the next part of it. So then you put in all of these, and then there's something that's going to go in between here, and I just don't have that floss yet, I don't think. So then you do all of that, and then you move out, and then you're going to be working on these. And I really love it. I love the organization of it. I love the geometric nature of it. I'm going to zoom in, see if I can hold still so you can see the dimension of the needlepoint. And she has so much needlepoint there, and there's just like so many options. It's like doing a Carolyn Manning, but in needlepoint. So I really, really love it. I am doing all my starts on the top with these I forget what they're called, something knots. And then you can clip them once you've stitched over that area. So I had a whole bunch in here and I just barely clipped them. Heidi was like, why do you have all those knots on the top? Like I still have quite a lot. It's just, I don't want to clip them until I've stitched in that spot. So anyway, I'm new to it and I'm loving it. And if this looks like something that you would really engage with, give it a try. It was not expensive to kit this up. This canvas is inexpensive. The frame is inexpensive. You know, it's just getting the flosses, but still it wasn't as expensive as, you know, kitting up a Mirabilia or something. So I had so much fun. It's a very different feel. Also, this is the only thing that I'm stitching in a frame because I like to stitch in hand, but you need it for the tension of this canvas. So yeah. So part of my plans every time I draw 2 random whips that I'm gonna pull out before you see me next. So we'll do that at the end of this video. And one of the ones that I drew last video was Andale. This gorgeous, gorgeous piece. And I just love the shade of, let's see if you can tell what color green it is when I put it against my white shirt. It's just a very, very light spring green. So what did I do this time? I didn't stitch on this very long. This whole motif is new. And it's going to mirror this one, so you can tell what it's gonna look like. And I think I brought over this border a little bit more, but basically I just worked on this motif. So I'm stitching this with the called for, I think it's NPIs. Oh yeah, it's a mix of some NPI and Gloriana, but it's the called for silks. That's what I'm stitching it with, and I really love it. And this was my back to school sal last year. Look at this baby. What? This giant sheet. It's a half yard of 40 count that I overdyed. Is this a half yard? Yeah. I'm probably pretty sure I got it from Colorado Cross Stitcher. I love her shop. And then I just overdyed it. If you want to see how I overdye fabric, you can go back like 2 videos, I think. When I was at Heidi's house, we took some footage of us dyeing some fabric. Heidi is from Whips and Kits here on Flosstube. So, yeah, that's my progress on that one. The other random whip that I drew last time was Jane Fiddes, and just had to stop to sneeze. My allergies are just out of control right now. So, I feel like I stitched on this one a lot, and so I didn't get a ton done on a lot of other things. But basically, I finished the alphabets up here, so I think there's no missing letters on the top set. And then I wanted to finish this set. So I think I had up to here, or maybe I didn't quite have the F done. So I did the F with the back stitching. I did this whole middle cool thingy, which has a bunch of these long stitches and stuff. Then I went over to the W, F. I feel like it says Phoebe right here, which is really fun. Even though this is an F, not an E, but you know, whatever. From far away, it kind of looks like it. That is not how I spell my name, by the way, but it's all good. And so each of those has outlining. The W and the F, it's kind of hard to see the outlining on it, but I love it. And then I did the zigzag, the stitches that they have you do too on that, the back stitches, but they actually, it looks like in the pattern I'm not supposed to do anything farther than 1 stitch. So you might be able to tell these first 3, the back stitches are all just 1 stitch apart. And then over here I started doing 2. So hopefully it's not too noticeable, the difference. So that is Jane Fiddes. I am stitching it. This is Hands Across the Sea. This is Hands Across the Sea. I'm stitching it with the Vicki Clayton Silks conversion, and I love it. It is super fun. All the cool alphabets. I mean, it's such a fun pattern to work on. I mentioned I was going to pull this one out for my Christmas stitch on the 25th of the month, so I did. And everything besides the roof of the house is new. So on the 25th, I started building the side of the house, then put in the windows, then I built the door and the pathway. I even put a little bit of the snow down there on the very bottom. I started building out the snow. And this is Winter Rose Manor from With Thy Needle and Thread. I love it. It is being stitched on a piece of, I feel like it's like 20 count Lugana maybe. And it's a very thick, I feel like I'm stitching on jeans, but not as hard to push it through, but it's just like, it's just really, really thick. And I overdyed this one to have this nice soft wintry blue. And so I'm using all of the called for flosses, even conch. Right there, that's what conch looks like, again, if you dye your fabric blue for this project. So I really love it. As you can see, I don't have so much left to go now that I've got the house started too. So I am just very much enjoying this piece, and I just need to remember to get it out more. So this is being stitched 1 strand. If you can see the level of opacity there on the stitches, I didn't want it to be too much, so I chose to do 1 strand over 2 on this, I think 20 count Lugana, and I am or it might be 32 count. And I am using the call for flosses. Except for roasted marshmallow, that was not in stock, so I'm using Weeks Light Khaki. I only have 2 more whips. So next up I have the project that I stitch on the 21st of the month, and this is the project that my daughter Honor picked for me to stitch on her birthday, which is the 21st, which also happens to be my older son's birthday. Not the same day, not the same month. So this is Fractor Flowers by Barrick, and this time I added a little bit more in there. I brought this over the bordering, which I love this border so much, that top cross section, I love it. And then I worked on this leaf, I pulled this up some more, and that's really all I had time to do on that day, on the 21st. I think we were at my mom's house. But maybe I was stitching on this a little bit on the way back home. So this is a piece of 40 count that I over dyed to have this lovely brown color. So I'm using 1 strand over 2 with the called for MPIs. Actually, it's about half and half. Half and half is the called for MPIs, and then I added some DMC, and the bright minty blue greens are totally just pulled from stash. So I love this project. Okay, my final whip. This is the one that felt like I was stitching on it for a long time. That's right. I was stitching on this for most of the trip to California whenever I had time to stitch. So this is part 6 of the Hometown Sal from Teresa Kogut, which is a 2-year-long sal. So I'm 1 part behind. So I stitched up to like right where this cutoff is, and then over halfway through that house, the blue house. So that's what I stitched this time. Here, let me see if I can. Basically, that is what I stitched this time. And it felt like it took a really long time. So I'm 1 part behind, like I said, because of mania. So I have the part that takes me over to about right here and down. I just didn't have it in me to do 2 parts this month. I thought maybe I could, but I could not. So this is a 32 count Lugana. And I'm doing 1 strand over 2 on it to give it a more primitive look. And I'm really, really enjoying it. She's just put so much into this sal, into this design, and it's going to be a long town, like that, going all the way down. So I'm going to get a new part on the 15th of every month. I totally kitted this up with my own flosses, because I wanted to make it more interesting for me. The drab browns that are used a lot by Teresa, I love them. They are great paints to use, but I get a little bit bored. So I like to throw in some other things. So actually everything is from stash. So that is that. I don't know if I will find it in me to be able to complete this other part before the 15th, or if I'm just going to be like perpetually a month behind now. I don't know. We shall see. It is a very fun pattern to stitch on, but I'm the type of gal who needs to mix it up a lot. So that's my final whip. So like I said, on today, right after this, I'm gonna go stitch with Kim. We're gonna stitch on Emmeline, which looks like this, so you will see some progress on that. And then I have a lot of like specific days of the month that I stitch on things. So on the 31st, I'm gonna stitch on something Halloween-y. And so I'm probably going to pull out the Supernatural Sal and see if I can get a lot done and just get that like really close to being done. On the 30th, sorry, I skipped over Joy's birthday. So on the 30th, I'm going to stitch on Blackberry House from Plum Street Samplers. The 31st, I'm going to stitch on the Supernatural Sal from the Witchy Stitcher. Did I say I was at the Witchy Stitcher earlier in this video? Or did I say Witchery Stitchery? Can't remember. They're so similar, I get them confused sometimes. Okay, and then on the 7th, so next Wednesday, is going to be my birthday, and I'm going to start this project, and I actually haven't kitted it up yet at all, which is probably a mistake because she uses a lot of interesting flosses. So maybe I will, I don't know, I need to look at it. I need to look at it like today. I need to not put that off anymore and see what I can pull from stash. And then if there's like a few of the called for flosses that are really special that I want to make sure I have that look in the piece, and see what I have to start that on the 7th. So it's not like I need all the flosses to start on the 7th, but I want to pick my fabric and get that ready to go, started on my birthday. And then on the 10th, which will be the last stitching day before our next video on the 11th, on the 10th, I'm going to stitch on my anniversary stitch, which looks like this. It's Pretty Little London. Are you guys, speaking of London, not really, are you guys loving the Olympics? I am. I'm having it on a lot. London makes me think of Paris because when I went to London, directly after that I went to Paris. So, okay, and then what I do is I pick a couple random projects with you guys. So here is my Mania 2024 list. Whoopsie. So we're gonna see what fate has decided for me to stitch on in the next 2 weeks from this list. So I pull open a random generator, and I'm going to set the parameters at 1 to 24 since I have 24 whips on this list. And then 11. 11 is going to be Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow. We did actually do that kind of recently, but I'm pumped because I want to stitch on that some more. So Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow, we'll definitely get some work on it. And then the last plan let's talk about is one more random draw using the Tiny Decisions app. Got to get off of the chores wheel that I made for the kids. I made this chores wheel. It makes it more fun for them to know what their chore is going to be for that day, so they draw the wheel. And then if they want to make any extra money that day, they can click it as many times as they want and do more chores, and I will give them, you know, minimal, but some more money to do chores. And, you know, we're just trying to figure out what to do with ourselves for this summertime. So here's all my whips. Memories of the Past from Hands Across the Sea. Yay! My purple sampler. Okay, so that looks like this. So you'll definitely see some progress on that in the next couple weeks, and I'm very excited. Okay, so I'm gonna get into books now. If you're totally not interested, by now you know that your reading taste is not my taste, or if you just don't really care about books. That's what we're gonna talk about now. So I will see you back in 2 weeks if you don't care to hear about what I've been reading. Okay, so I'm gonna go in reverse order, I think. I started a book called A Study in Drowning. Looks like this, it's by Ava Reed. I like it. It kind of feels like Jane Eyre mixed with that book, that Scholomance book I just read. So she's in is she in a magic school? I don't think she has magic right now where I'm at. I'm not very far in, I'm only 6 chapters in. But it's like girls aren't allowed to take literary courses. For some reason, girls are being gatekeeped from like books and learning and discussing literature in school. So she's in architecture school, and she designs a redesign for this deceased, very famous author, and she goes to his house, and it's like dilapidated. Not that the Jane Eyre house is necessarily all dilapidated, but it's definitely like dark gothic vibes, and it's really fun. So she goes there, but then there's also like, I could think it's going to be a friends to lover kind of trope, because there's this boy who is in the literary college who's going there to like disprove all of this author's work and like show that he's a fraud or something. But then the girl, she's like really loves this author. So there's going to be a heavy clash there, and she's redesigning his estate or something. So it feels very atmospheric and very fun. So enjoying that. Before that, I read a book that I had in my to read list for a while, and I actually didn't love it. So I'm just gonna share, because, you know, talk about the good and the bad. I read Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. This is the same author that wrote Gone Girl, which I didn't read because I saw the movie, but I should have known because it's called Dark Places. The book was fine. It was just very, very dark. Lots of times when you're reading something dark, there'll be like some elements of light that you can focus on, or like something hopeful, but there was none of that in this book. So I was just like, oh, it was just a heavy read for me. It's about a family annihilator and a young girl that survives that event, doing like some of her own detective work to see what really happened and become more informed about her history and things like that. But it was just dark. So anyway, it's fine. Dark is fine sometimes. I just need like, I usually need like some humor mixed in there with it or something, you know? So anyway, before that I read The Outsider by Stephen King. This one was also, and maybe because I read 3 back-to-back, or maybe I read 4 back-to-back that were pretty dark. Anyway, maybe that's why my brain was just in this space where I needed something light, like I needed a romantic comedy or something. So The Outsider by Stephen King, which I'd never read Stephen King before, it's about this very horrific thing that happens in this town. And this like figurehead of the community gets blamed for what happened, but the whole time you're trying to figure out, did he really do this thing? Or was it this outsider? And is this outsider supernatural? Or is there even an outsider? And so it's like, it's kind of like you're watching a season of true crime. So it's like investigating all the different elements and trying to find out what happened. So I don't want to say any more about it because I feel like you don't really want to know too much about it. So then before that I read Confessions, and this was highly recommended for twistiness, and it is from an Asian author. And so I read the English translated version, and it was wackadoodle. I was listening to it on our way to California, and I think I finished it while we were on the drive. And for like the last hour of that drive to my parents' house, I was telling Tim about it, and he just kept being like, what? And that's the kind of book it is. You're reading it and you're like, what? But it was really good. I never read anything like that before, so it was interesting. So that's Confessions by Kane Minato. Before that, I read After That Night by Karen Slaughter. This is the final book that she has released in the Will Trent series. I love that whole series. Okay, so this is an example of a series that's darker. You're dealing with like true life, true crime type of stuff that's happening, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigations who's investigating it. It's fiction, but it's more true crime-esque. But then you have characters in the books that you really, really love, and that bring different elements so that the whole thing doesn't feel dark. Like you get to know Faith so well in the book. You get to know Sarah and Will and Amanda, and so it's like the 10th book or something, so you're really building the arcs of these characters, and I really like it. So that's what I read. I also started a reread of Throne of Glass. My friend started reading the Throne of Glass series, so we read the first 2, this and this. And I listened to it at like 1.7 speed because I've read them a few times before. So we're doing a reread of those as it's her first time. It's really fun to read something with somebody when it's their first time reading it. Adding this in when I'm editing, I forgot to talk about this one, Stillhouse Lake from Rachel Kane. I enjoyed this. This is about a mom and her 2 kids who are in the witness protection program. Well, let's see. No, they're like unofficially. So basically she keeps moving them around to try to not be found by the fans of her serial killer husband's. He's in jail for, like, she discovered he was a serial killer and had been living this whole life with him, and now she's just trying to stay anonymous for her kids' safety. And they finally feel at home at this lake house, but then she starts to feel like somebody terrible knows where she is. And this is actually a series, and I really liked this. I don't know if I liked it enough to keep going in the series, but something big happens at the end of this book that makes you kind of interested to see what's going to happen next, you know how authors do. So I think I give this one like a 3.5. I did like this one. And then I feel like the last thing I talked about in the last episode was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This was a fun read. It was very lighthearted. Basically, for lack of other terms, there's this vampire princess and there's this werewolf prince, and they get married to each other to kind of like join the clans. That's not really, but without getting too much into it, that's how you can imagine. And then they're supposed to make it so the other side isn't going to attack each other because nobody wants their like high up person to get hurt. And then there's all this stuff that's going on, and you're trying to figure out who is the bad guy, and like, it's twisty and fun. It's a romantasy. So I thought it was fun. And the author is very funny. Allie Hazelwood. So I put a few of her other books on my TBR because she's sciencey and she's funny. So I liked that a lot. So that was everything I read in the last couple weeks. I hope that you had some fun hanging out with me today. I hope that you've had lots of stitchy time and you're surviving all of this heat. And I think that we're just gonna wrap it up and I'm heading over to Stitch with Kim. So I'm gonna go do that. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I will see you back in 2 weeks. It will be August. Oh my gosh, we're almost into August. And we'll chat then. So I'll see you later. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. Bye.